Good morning everyone, Peter Racey here, Foundation Expo 88 YouTube channel. We're in the shop of Gail Austin, Good Time, established for 30 to 40 years. 1971. I'm going to put up
50 years next July.
Put up some information, but I discovered a couple of weeks ago that Gail was instrumental in making the Australian Pavilion successful during Expo 88. And so what we're going to do this morning, between Gail handling the crowds in at the store, is talk about how she rescued the Australia Pavilion to make it on par, if not better, than the New Zealand Pavilion during Expo 88. So let's move on. Gail, this is a really interesting story you've got there. So off you go. Tell us about Mick Vevers, Sally Ann Atkinson.
Well, one thing I must say, getting on par with that Expo, that New Zealand Pavilion, the Kiwis had it killed. They were just brilliant. I'd have to give them #1 pavilion the whole way through. They were brilliant, and they were the reason that Mick Vevers rang me, because it opened for probably about a week, and the Australian Pavilion was like a ghost town, they told me, and the New Zealand Pavilion was lining up in droves to get in, and the Australian government had paid, I think, 17 million for the whole thing to be done by an Australian company, and they approached them to try and get something more happening in the place, and apparently they said nobody's allowed to touch it. So I think Mick Vevers rang me because he said, we need a volunteer. We cannot pay a company to fix this pavilion or to recreate anything in there, because they'd get sued, there'd be a court case over it. So they said, Gail, we thought you might be the one to go in and rescue the Australian Pavilion. I thought, oh my dear. So I went in there, and I went in the next night after they rang me, and in the queue waiting to get in the night time was Sally Ann Atkinson. She was in the queue, and she had to do things in there as well. And so I went in, had a good look at the Australian Pavilion, and all that was wrong with it, they'd created three big waves, which went along as you walked in, like representing the surf, but they were empty. There was nothing in them. Then they had, they had pictures of the deserts, and they had pictures of trees, but nothing was happening. It was the deadest place you've ever been. In fact, a very quiet, out in the middle of Australia idea, which was great, but they were here to entertain people, and it wasn't entertaining. And so I could see that, and so I thought, well, all I could think of doing, I thought, well, I've got no budget, so I've got to do it myself, pay for everything myself. There was no money involved, and I thought the smartest way to do it is, first of all, put some surfboards in the waves. And so I had a fellow working for me at the time who was doing repairs. So him and I would come in at midnight or whatever time it opened at night, when everyone went home, and we'd work right through the night, cutting holes in these surfboards, in these waves, the wooden waves, and then inserting surfboards into them. And I'd sort of gone a bit further by then. I thought, well, I'll put some koala bears and kangaroos in there riding the surfboards, and I started to give it the Australian theme. So the surfboards, those waves began to come alive. I put some terrific old, I had a lot of very classic surfboards from the 1900s, 1800s, etc. And so I bought them in, the wooden ones, and put one of those in one of the waves. And then I thought, there was one wave at the end, and I thought, what am I going to do with that one? It's so big. And then I thought, I rang the guys down at Burleigh Head Surf Club, and I said, boys, bring your surfboat up. I can guarantee an open bar for you, because the Australian Pavilion did provide for the work and the people that helped me, a carte blanche at the bar. And so I don't drink myself, but I told them they could come up and they'll all have a free drink for doing the job. So they all came up, and then we cut a hole in that wave, and we sat the surfboat in it with the waves, and then I sat models in it and things. So that's the kind of thing that I was doing. And then